Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is here. Welcome back, everyone, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. This is going to be a short one. I wanted to do an update on yet another Scientology Sea Org executive who has left. Now, in this case, they've left the Sea Organization, but they haven't left Scientology. All indications point to the fact that they have not left Scientology, which brings up a whole other series of questions about how David Miscavige is handling Sea Org members, veteran Sea Org members, high-level Sea Org members who leave the Sea Org. Let's just talk about this. I have some ideas. Now, a few days ago, maybe 2 days ago, I did a video covering a story in the Wall Street Journal about a high-level wealthy Scientologist named Joe Cicala, who created a company that is, just to put it bluntly, intended to be a stock exchange for Black-owned businesses. Now, Joe Cicala is a white man, a white, rich Scientologist in Chicago who created a company called Dream Exchange. And like I said, it's supposed to be a stock market for Black-owned businesses. Now, you know what other stock market exists for Black-owned businesses? It's called the stock market. I didn't realize businesses owned by Black Americans needed their own stock market. I think the regular stock market works just fine. But what do I know, guys? I grew up in a cult. So anyway, the Wall Street Journal did an article about Dream Exchange, owned by wealthy Chicago-based Scientologist Joe Cicala. Joe Cicala's son, Joe Cicala Jr., or Joe Cicala III, actually runs the Scientology organization in Chicago. It was a great article. It talked about, it interviewed a bunch of former employees, some former and current investors. It looks like Dream Exchange exists in part to funnel money to Scientology and to financially support Scientology in Chicago. Now, that article mentioned a very well-known, very long-term Sea Org member named Charlie Bills. And Charlie Bills had shown up at Joe Cicala's office, basically demanding Joe's attention and demanding some money. And whereas Joe Cicala's employees at Dream Exchange knew of Scientology and knew of Joe's involvement in Scientology, they didn't quite understand the level to which he was involved. And they certainly didn't understand who this guy, Charlie Bills, was that was showing up acting like he owned the place. That got Charlie Bills's unusual presence at Joe's business at that particular time of day and day of the week just set off some alarm bells for their employees. So they looked into Charlie Bills. They found out who Charlie was. This led them down a whole rabbit hole that eventually led to the investigation into Dream Exchange and Scientology. Now, in the Wall Street Journal article, they managed to get a hold of Charlie Bills and get a quote from him. And Charlie said that not only was his presence at Dream Exchange that morning solely because Joe Cicala was a personal friend of his, it had nothing to do with Scientology. It had nothing to do with the fact that Charlie Bills is a fundraiser for Scientology, specifically their largest base in the world in Clearwater, Florida, called the Flag Land Base, and that Charlie Bills' job in Scientology was at that time Flag Service Consultant, which means his job was to travel all around the United States, getting Scientologists to give him big fat checks for the Church of Scientology in Clearwater. But no. That's not why Charlie was there. Charlie was just there because Joe was his close personal friend. All right. The article quoted Charlie Bills also as saying he no longer works for Scientology. And in my video, I was like, what? I said, guys, I don't think Charlie would be allowed to say that to a journalist unless he actually was no longer in the Sea Org. And if Charlie Bills is no longer in the Sea Org, I need some more information about this. Well, you guys came through. I mean, I should have been able to find it on my own, but I never even looked. Charlie Bills is, in fact, out of the Sea Org. He lives right here in Clearwater, Florida, which is so weird. It used to be that if you left the Sea Org from Flag, the last place in the world you were allowed to live was in Clearwater. It used to be if you left the Sea Org anywhere in the world, the last place you were allowed to go was Clearwater, Florida. And Charlie Bills is living in Clearwater, Florida. He is on Facebook. He lives right in downtown Clearwater. and he is openly in touch with public Scientologists. Now, guys, Charlie Bills is very old. And well, you know what? Let me not put the cart before the horse. Let me just share with you what Charlie Bills has shared with people on Facebook. Here is Charlie Bills. Now, I cannot stress how well known of a Sea Org member Charlie Bills is. Okay. Clearwater, Florida, the Flagland base is the hub, the worldwide hub of Scientology. Charlie Bills' post for a long time at Flag was the technical secretary. That's the head of the technical division. That's the head of Division 4. That is the head of the division that is responsible for delivering all of the Scientology services. In this case, the lower level non-confidential services. So Division 4 was responsible for overseeing all of the courses and all of the auditing on the lower half of the bridge. Division 4A is the advanced organization. That's where the OT levels are delivered. So pretty much every Scientologist in the world knew Charlie Bills. That was before he was put onto the post of Flag Service Consultant, which would then have him traveling to pretty much every Scientology organization in the United States. I'm going to say probably not the world, because there's other Flag Service Consultants posted in other continents. And so but Charlie Bills, so not only for a ton of years did every Scientologist going through Flag meet Charlie Bills and know who Charlie Bills was. But then for many, many more years after that, he literally traveled to every church of Scientology in the United States to collect money for Flag. I'm telling you, I don't think there's a Scientologist in the United States who doesn't know who Charlie Bills is. So he joined Facebook about a year ago. Now, partially probably because Charlie Bills is very old and new to Facebook. Most of his Facebook posts are him getting tagged in spam posts. Okay. But if we fast forward to one post in particular where he's having a lot of back and forth with Scientologists, let's just take a look at some of this. There's some, okay, so you see people asking, where are you now? He goes, I'm in Chicago until tomorrow, and then I'm back in Clearwater. By the way, I mean, everyone's saying hi to him as a well-known Scientologist. Joe Bueno, former Scientology, former Sea Org member from Los Angeles, who I knew there. There's a couple I'm specifically looking for here. Interesting comment here. Alice Sanders. Hi, Charlie. Hope all in your life as well. Charlie says, I'm doing well now that I've returned to life. Now, I promise you, he does not mean now that I'm out of the Sea Org and returned to life, meaning living in the real world. No, that means something actually happened with Charlie. That's what I take away from it. Something happened. There's another post that I'm looking for here that I think gives a clue. Look, Angie Blankenship. Tuck that away, guys. We're going to come back to Angie Blankenship, okay? Oh, look, Joy Gendusa. Joy Gendusa owns Postcard Mania. She's also originally from Chicago. Fume Mathers. Fume Mathers is one of the Scientology whales. At least her husband is. Oh, no. Where's the thing that I was looking for? Now I'm embarrassed. Sorry to make you wait, guys. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Robert Naya says, hey, Charlie, all good? And Charlie goes, all good, except news on Aja or Aja. Robert says, right. Totally unexpected, huge loss. I'm taking it as an LOA. Okay, guys, that might sound like a weird thing to say. What does that mean to a Scientologist? Well, it sounds like someone close to Charlie named Aja died. That's what that means. All good, except news on Aja. Huge loss. That's what Scientologists describe someone dying. In Scientology, they don't say someone died. They say you dropped your body. And they also refer to it as a loss. Now, when Roberto Naya says, I'm taking it as an LOA, that refers to Scientology's belief that you basically reincarnate. You dropped your body and you're picking up a new body. And in the Sea organization, when a Sea Org member dies, they issue an in memoriam. It's an actual paper. They publish it. They hand it out to people. And it says that the Sea Org member is being granted a 21-year leave of absence. I can't remember if it said 18 years or 21 years, but it basically says this Sea Org member is being granted a 21-year leave of absence, and then we will await their return. So, the motto of Scientology's Sea organization is "We come back." Now, that is in reference to the Sea Org's 1 billion year contract. The contract is a dedication to work for Scientology, not only for the rest of your life, but all of your future lifetimes until Scientology succeeds in clearing planet Earth, which is basically taking over planet Earth with all of Scientology, taking over all of planet Earth with Scientology. So I only checked with a few people because I remember who Charlie Bills used to be married to. And if Charlie Bills is as old as he looks, his first wife, the wife that I knew, may have already died years and years ago. And it's possible that Charlie remarried someone named Aja. Now, I checked with a couple people who just didn't know. So I'm just telling you, this is just what I'm taking away from this. Sounds like Charlie had a second wife named Aja. It sounds like she passed away. And I'm guessing that is what Charlie means when he says, now that I've returned to life. Maybe he was dealing with all that. I could be totally wrong. I'm just giving you my impressions from what I'm reading. Okay. I want to remember. I want to remember to get back to Angie Blankenship, but I have some thoughts here. I have some thoughts, but they're not fully formed. And I'm also looking for some feedback from you guys. Why do we think that David Miscavige is letting some high level? Now, I call Charlie Bills a high level Sea Org member, even though he wasn't at international management, because being at the Flagland base is, in my opinion, a high level in Scientology. It is the most important Scientology base in the world. It is the biggest Scientology base in the world. It is the most, if not only, profitable Sea Org base in the world. And it's the only base directly run by David Miscavige. Why are Sea Org members like Charlie Bills allowed to leave the Sea Org and live the rest of their lives in the real world connected to public Scientologists, whereas other long-term Sea Org members are sent off to Sea Org medical homes to die in relative seclusion? People like Rosemary Brown. Even younger Sea Org members, like ones closer to my age who, for whatever reason, are having medical problems, like Kylie Rose Pierce and Damian Kevitt. Why are some Sea Org members sent to homes to die and other Sea Org members are allowed to leave the Sea Org? I think I only have, like I said, my thoughts on this are not fully fleshed out. But I believe the reason someone like Charlie Bills is allowed to leave the Sea Org and stay in Clearwater and associate with public is because the only way Miscavige is going to let Charlie Bills leave the Sea Org is if Miscavige can be very sure that he can keep Charlie Bills under a microscope for the rest of his life to make sure he's not stirring up trouble. Because I'll tell you, Charlie Bills knows an awful lot of dirt. Charlie Bills can also personally attest to the sorry state of Scientology around the world. I mean, for sure in the US, but most likely also around the world. Charlie Bills has probably raised personally tens of millions of dollars for Scientology. Charlie Bills has been to probably every Scientology organization in the United States. That includes the ideal organizations and the organizations that are not ideal. Charlie Bills could attest to the fact that the ideal orgs are just as empty and perhaps even less viable than the non-ideal orgs. Charlie Bills could attest to the fact that David Miscavige's ideal org real estate fundraising strategy is an absolute failure and is actually crashing Scientology's stats. Charlie Bills knows where so many bodies are buried, and yet Charlie Bills is allowed to leave the Sea Org. I think that you guys know I like to repeat myself. I think the only reason Charlie Bills is allowed to be out of the Sea Org is because he is under a microscope and he's got eyes on him at all times. And if he says anything crossways to any Scientologist, Miscavige will be able to find out about it immediately. I think when we see Sea Org members in Los Angeles who are sent to these homes to die, these are Sea Org members who, for whatever reason, there isn't somewhere Miscavige can send them that he's comfortable he can keep tabs on them. So like Kylie Rose Pierce, for example, she's Australian. If she's got some sort of terminal illness, she could just be sent back to Australia and get health care there. but it's probably hard for Miscavige to have Kylie Rose Pierce under a microscope all the way in Australia. But historically, that is what would happen with Sea Org members. I've seen Sea Org members sent back to Canada. I've seen them sent back to Mexico. I've seen them sent back to Australia, anywhere where they can get medical care that the Sea Org doesn't have to pay for it. So you've got Charlie Bills. It's interesting, right? Because now Charlie has a daughter, Jasmine. Jasmine is married to one of my old friends, Benny Freehoff, and they have children. So that means Charlie actually has grandchildren here in Clearwater. So he has a reason to be on his best behavior. I sort of wonder whether Charlie is somehow being subsidized by David Miscavige and Scientology. Like, how does Scientology make sure that Charlie isn't hard up for cash? He certainly doesn't have a retirement plan in place, despite having made tens of millions of dollars for Scientology. I'm sure he doesn't have, he doesn't have some sort of a retirement account or retirement funds or anything like that. So Charlie Bills is an interesting case study. Someone I never would have expected that Miscavige would let him leave, and I never would have expected that Miscavige would let him live in Clearwater. And that does bring us back to Angie Blankenship. Now, guys, quick refresher on Angie Blankenship. She is one of the Angie Blankenship was David Miscavige's right-hand woman for I don't even know how long. Now, David Miscavige has a lot of right-hand women. Shelly, Larice, Angie, Jenny, lots of them. But Angie knows so much. And Angie Blankenship is one of the highest level defectors from Scientology management who has never, ever, ever spoken out. And, Angie's departure from the Sea Org was absolutely scandalous. She was one of the senior most Scientology managers in the world. She was sent in by David Miscavige on a special mission to Los Angeles to open up the new Los Angeles org. While she was there, she absconded with one of her junior's husbands, escaped, shagged, got pregnant, left the Sea Org, stole her junior's husband. They left the Sea Org together, had a kid, and then got divorced. She stole her junior's husband and didn't even keep him. They got divorced. And Angie Blankenship, I've done a whole bunch of videos about Angie Blankenship basically taking Scientology blood money to keep her mouth shut. And those videos really pissed Angie off. I ran into her down on Clearwater Beach a few times. And she was really drunk one time, and she was really, really pissed that I said she took money. And she said, I never took a cent from Dave, and I could bury Dave with what I know. Angie Blankenship said to me that she could bury David Miscavige with what she knows. And you're like, and you didn't even take money? At least a whore gets paid, Angie. What do you call yourself? Oh my God. Now, I think Charlie Bills could also bury David Miscavige with what he knows. But let's look at what Angie and Charlie had to say to each other on Facebook. Ugh, I hope I didn't miss it already. Hold on, guys. I missed it. Scrolling. Okay, Angie goes, hey, Charlie. Charlie goes, hey, Angie, great to hear from you. I retire. Now, we all know there's no such thing as retiring in the Sea Org, right? So this is just PR. I retire, but I'm out doing a lot of good. Maybe we'll bump into each other somewhere in town. I live in Station Square. That's just a big condo building in downtown Clearwater. The whole condo building is practically occupied by Scientologists. I live in Station Square, but I go back and forth to Chicago a lot. I wonder what Charlie goes back and forth to Chicago for. My understanding is that Benny and Jasmine live here in Clearwater. I wonder, maybe Benny and Jasmine moved to Chicago. I doubt it, but I haven't double checked. Okay, Angie goes, awesome, Charlie. I'm close by. I hope you're well. Charlie says, I'm very well, and I hope the same for you. If you want to send me your number, I'll call sometime. We have a lot we could laugh about, I'm sure. Uh-oh. Who are they going to be laughing about? Little Captain Davy? I love imagining Angie and Charlie having drinks down at the beach, telling tall tales about all the ways they could bury David Miscavige. That would be absolutely amazing. Okay, I'm very well. I hope the same for you. If you want to send me your number, I'll call sometime. I'm sure we have a lot we could laugh about, I'm sure. Yes, all good here. Sounds good. David Miscavige would probably lose his mind at the idea of Charlie Bills and Angie Blankenship getting together and comparing notes and shooting the shit about all of the dirt they know about David Miscavige. And even though I've given all sorts of speculation about why it's probably okay as long as they're under a microscope, I don't know. I feel like, Miscavige at some point is just between a rock and a hard place. Because if you ship these people out to far-flung areas, there's no way to keep tabs on them. So you keep them here in Clearwater so you can keep tabs on them, and they're in touch with everyone. It's a little bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So maybe that's pretty much long and the short of it. Like, how many options does David Miscavige really have? Speaking of Angie Blankenship, I just want to show you guys something because this really chaps my ass. Okay, so here we have Angie. She's on Facebook. That's fine. She what I really want to show you here is her and her sister. She sells all sorts of stuff here. Her and her sister recently opened up a new salon in downtown Clearwater. Okay, that's fine. Well, guess who's cutting the ribbon on the new business run by one of David Miscavige's most notorious henchwomen, the mayor of Clearwater. I mean, you can't make this shit up, guys. So, first I'll just show you the website. Okay, so the new salon is called the White Sands Salon. It's right in downtown Clearwater. And you go to our team. Lori Blankenship is Angie's sister. She's the owner. And what do you know? You've got Angie Blankenship right there. So Angie and Lori have opened up yet another business. Literally David Miscavige's right-hand man. Angie Blankenship is complicit in trafficking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children and covering up countless cases of child molestation, child abuse, statutory rape, and actual rapes on the Flag Land base. But isn't it adorable that the mayor of Clearwater is cutting the ribbon on their new business? This is why Clearwater's never going to do a damn thing about Scientology, you guys. They really couldn't care less. They really just could not care less. And that's what really chaps my ass, guys. Okay, that's Charlie Bills. Guys, if any of you wonderful under-the-radar Scientologists out there have some more intel for me on what's Charlie Bills' Sea Org retirement plan? Is he getting funded? Is he having his bills paid by a little deal that he's worked out with David Miscavige? Is Charlie Bills actually working for a local Scientologist? Does Benny and Jasmine Freehoff still live in Clearwater, or have they moved away? What is Charlie Bill's connections to Chicago at this point? I mean, there's no way his parents are still alive, so it's not like he's visiting his parents. Does Charlie have siblings that live in Chicago? Or does Charlie travel to Chicago because maybe Joe Sakala is paying Charlie's bills? Charlie Bill's bills. I mean, Charlie and Joe do go back. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe Joe Sakala is doing David Miscavige a favor by funding Charlie Bill's retirement plan. But if that were the case, then I would suspect that Charlie would stay in Chicago and stay the hell away from Clearwater. Because I'm willing to bet David Miscavige does not want Charlie Bills to be in Clearwater if he had a choice. So anyway, a lot of questions about Charlie that I could still use answers to. And any help from you guys out there, I would greatly appreciate it. Growing up in Scientology at gmail.com. Okay, let's hit some starred comments and we'll wrap this one up. William Madden. Hey, Aaron, did you find out who Clearwater Police was told to come out and protest last week? No, I do not have answers to that question yet, but thank you. C.O. Bilf, to be fair, it is possible that Joe Sakala was black somewhere on the whole track. Oh my goodness. Dave's Deep Dives. After watching the deposition video from earlier, I'm wondering, is Professor Kakan Marty in disguise? I love it. C.O. Bilf, Charlie and Aaron have a mutual Facebook friend. Charlie has a PTS situation. Yes, indeed. Sharona, I wonder how he could afford to leave the Sea Org. It makes me think he might have inherited money and was somehow financially secure enough to leave, or did he make money because he was a big fundraiser? Really good question. It's always possible that a Sea Org member can inherit money. It's just that Sea Org members who inherit money tend to be under a lot of pressure to donate that money, especially if the Sea Org member who's inheriting the money is literally a fundraiser, right? So like if Charlie Bills' stats were down for the week and he really wanted to get his stats up, he would use some of his inheritance just to donate his own money to his own statistic that week. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible. That being said, Scientology fundraisers, even Sea Org members, tend to make a lot of extra pocket money. It always ends up happening that way. Once Miscavige finds out that Sea Org fundraisers are making too much money, he'll change the incentive program or he'll change the rules, because the last thing Miscavige wants is Sea Org members having too much extra money on hand. But fundraisers like Charlie Bales always figure out how to make money, extra money somehow. So it's not like I can't imagine, some world where Charlie Bales has some of his own money. It's just, you never know. And I just want to really get to the bottom of it. Okay, let's see. Super Weekend Warriors. Can you be a Sea Org member and an FSM at the same time? No, but that is a very good question that I've never heard anybody ask before. Thank you for that. Laura Burns, what do Scientologists think the world would look like, and what would they do if the whole planet was cleared? Excellent question. They think the aims of Scientology would be accomplished, and I'm not going to get this right, but the aims of Scientology were something like a world without insanity and without war, where the able can prosper and honest beings have rights, and man is free to rise to greater heights. Those are the aims of Scientology. So basically, there would be no war, there would be no crime, and everyone would be flourishing and prospering, and all the economies would be up, and the stock market would be great, and SPs would drop the body and pick up new bodies and grow up to not be SPs. Something along those lines. All right, let's see. Northern Girl. If Chuck wasn't being watched before, he's sure going to be now. Hi, Osa. Are you calling Charlie Chuck? He did not go by Chuck. But that is funny to think that he would. Nancy Stitchin, good to see you, Nancy. Always good to see you. Do you think Charlie was told to move to Clearwater, or did he just happen to choose the location? Oh, I mean, there's no, Charlie already lived in Clearwater. Charlie was a flag Sea Org member. Charlie's been living in Clearwater for the last 45 years. And guys, I really think Charlie has been in the Sea Org for at least 45 years. So it's not whether he would move to Clearwater, it's whether he would be allowed to live here. Now, maybe that's exactly what you meant. I do not think David Miscavige. We'll see. I want to make sure I'm not contradicting myself. Let me try to put enough thought into this. Like I said, historically speaking, if a Sea Org member was going to leave, they would actually be told, you're not allowed to live in Clearwater. And more recently, the Sea Org would actually go and arrange for a place for the person to live and arrange for some sort of a job, but usually in a far-flung area where they're not going to be interacting with a lot of Scientologists, particularly important, wealthy Scientologists in Los Angeles or Clearwater. So if I'm saying my theory is that one of the only ways it was going to be okay for Charlie to leave was to actually keep him in Clearwater and make sure he was basically being watched at all times. And that I just suspect that it was a better risk for Miscavige to keep him close and keep him in an area where he otherwise would normally want him to stay, but at least knowing that he would be able to keep tabs on Charlie. So I guess when I describe it that way, he would sort of be told, you're going to stay in Clearwater. But also, I imagine Charlie would want to stay in Clearwater. He clearly seems to have some connection to Chicago. But I imagine it's easier for Charlie to know that he's going to be okay as far as being taken care of, having enough money to pay his bills. If he stays in Clearwater, I imagine living in Clearwater is a lot cheaper than living in Chicago. And also, I am, at least as of now, under the impression that Charlie's daughter and his grandkids are here in Clearwater as well. So that would be another reason why Charlie would actually want to stay in Clearwater. So I guess it's a little bit of him being allowed to stay and also being told to stay. So, win-win, I guess. Okay, Northern Girl. It would be nice to see some of these powerful execs speak out without some weird agenda. Yep. Dave's Deep Dives. If she could bury little David with what she knows, why won't she? Exactly, Angie. If you're going to admit that you could bury Dave, And if you're going to say that you're not really a Scientologist anymore, then what is your excuse for not speaking out? To the best of my recollection, her excuse was she didn't want to upset her dad's very old and her dad hadn't died yet. And she just, didn't want to make life difficult for her dad. Now, I don't know if her dad is dead yet or not, but I seriously doubt Angie's going to start speaking out when her dad dies. Angie greatly benefits from continuing to exist in the Scientology ecosystem in Clearwater, Florida. Angie's got a young son. Angie's got a son that's younger than any of my kids, and Angie's probably 20 years older than me. Okay, maybe not 20 years older, but so Angie's, all of Angie's friends are Scientologists. All of her son's friends are Scientologists. Her son goes to a Scientology school. There's no reason for Angie to upend her life and make her life difficult just to speak out against Scientology. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm saying that from her perspective. From my perspective, her life would be much better if she didn't rely on the Scientology ecosystem for her and her son's happiness. But, we're just built different, I guess. Itchy Thetans, if Angie Blankenship could, oh no, that was the same thing. Yeah. Farrell Cheryl, ew, Bruce Rector, and Northern Girl, should letters be written to the mayor? If you ask my opinion, don't bother. Pissing in the wind. Pissing into the wind. Okay, everybody, that's it for this. More to come later this evening. Stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,